So is that true? Too many people are moving around your areas?
Well, that's what the government's telling us. We had a meeting with the Premier yesterday, 440 community leaders from across the city, from sporting to business to religious leaders. And the Premier told us directly that she was concerned with the amount of mobility, but the majority of people are doing the right thing and making sure that they're staying safe and staying at home.
So what came out of the meeting? What did you decide?
So what came out of the meeting was a bit of clarity. I mean, there's a lot of confusion in the community at the moment, confusion about when they can get the jab, confusion about times between AstraZeneca, confusion about the lockdowns, the confusion about what's essential. When can they leave the house? We have a lot of tradies, we have a lot of people in our community that can't work from home. So it's really hard to define what is essential, and the Premier is telling them that it's up to them to decide that. And so it's causing confusion. There was also conversation about how people can access the different, government support that's on offer, and confusion also about schools and which kids and how kids can access schools and where they could stay home. So there's a whole lot of topics discussed, and it was a good step in the right direction, I think, from the government, considering that we were singled out a week ago as being non-compliant.
How are you going getting messaging into those households where English may not be a primary language, Khal?
Well, I think the government's certainly pulled its finger out. I think we should have been doing this weeks ago. This virus started in the eastern suburbs. We've been in lockdown a few weeks now, and only until the last week has really the government filled the void with messaging and with ensuring that multicultural communities are hearing what the messages are and why. I think before that there was a void, and the community felt targeted because we saw people shoulder to shoulder in Bondi Beach, yet here in the southwest in Canterbury-Bankstown we saw mounted police, pole air and dog squads. So I think there was just a bit of inequity in that, and I think the government's recognised that and is now really working hard to make sure the resources are reaching the right people and talking to local government, talking to community leaders across the spectrum.
What sort of concerns? I mean, I know you talked about there is a lot of confusion out there within people who live in your area, but what concerns do you have, particularly about the virus and it potentially moving further than what it is right now?
Absolutely. One of the main concerns I have is spillover. Fairfield is the epicentre at the moment. There's cases there that are rising dramatically on a daily basis. We share a border with Fairfield. We have people living in our city that work in that local government area, and people in Fairfield work in our local government area. So we're really concerned that the numbers, if they're not contained, will spill over. And then the problem becomes, is the government prepared? Do we have enough testing places? I know a few have come online over the last weekend, and that's great. But I'm really concerned that if there is a dramatic increase in cases in Canterbury-Bankstown, that I'm not sure that the New South Wales Health have enough manpower to do that. We saw the chaos that emerged in Fairfield a few days ago with people waiting 6 hours to get tested. We're the largest city in New South Wales. We got 370,000 residents, and I'm just concerned that if there is an increase and the health orders are changed similar to Fairfield's, that there'll be a rush on centres, on testing centres, and there's just no capacity to cope, and it'll be chaotic. And that's what I'm, urging the government to do, to be prepared and try and get ahead of this virus and not always be one step behind.
Do you think the government panicked yesterday or the day before when it announced that this shutdown was going to happen and that workers had to go and get tested every 3 days without actually trying to work out how to do it? Was there an element of panic in that decision?
Oh, look, I think so. I think it's decisions that are being made on the run, and that's why the health order was changed 3 times. People firstly weren't sure that when they could get tested, then they could get tested by the weekend, then they could get tested where they work from. And look, that's policy on the run, and that's what's causing confusion. I mean, we're trying to do our best where no one wants to get sick, no one wants to infect someone else. We need to make sure this virus is contained, and we want to work with government. But unfortunately, the government continues to put out messages that change very quickly and very rapidly, and it causes confusion in our community. What I want is for some clarity and to make sure that there's preparedness, that we're ready should the virus break out of Fairfield into other local government areas across Sydney, and we're seeing cases in the south of Sydney and the east of Sydney, that the government's prepared, because what we don't want is to always be behind the 8 ball and always have this virus ahead of us.
Yeah. What do you believe an essential worker is?
Look, I think someone that needs to leave the house to protect others and to look after others, whether it's our nurses and our teachers, they're essential workers. I think there's a conversation that needs to be had about whether retail workers are essential, whether construction workers are essential in this time at the moment. I think there's confusion when the Premier is telling everyone that if you're an essential worker and you want to stay home, regardless if you have COVID, that you'd be eligible for support. But this morning we hear the Prime Minister say that's not the case. I mean, we need clarity. Who's entitled to support, when they can access it, what it means if they were to stay home, what it means if your boss doesn't let you or doesn't want you to stay home and you live in southwest of Sydney. So, as I said, not many of us work from home. Not many of us can work from home. And it's just important that we just get some clarity on what is essential, because we have people that work from all types of industries, and we need to make sure that everyone stays safe and no one's out there in the community when they don't need to be. And that's why we need clarity. We've got the Premier saying one thing about financial support. We've got the Prime Minister saying another. It causes more confusion. And what we're trying to do is make sure that the community is all on the same page across Sydney. This isn't just southwest Sydney, because we know this virus has the potential to spread.
Okay, Khal Asfour, the Canterbury-Bankstown Mayor. Thanks for your time. Talk to you soon.